Well, hello there, and welcome to the bedroom of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for March 25th, the day of dynamism. That's right. Near the top of the page, as a visual representational image of the day of dynamism, we have what appears to be, it looks like an inkwell with the ink coming out of it. That's right. Hey, it looks pretty dynamic, if I do say so myself. At least in respect to how an inkwell could look otherwise, rather static, if you like. That said, does that speak to the day of dynamism? Perhaps, all right, but not altogether all too important. What is important, however, is it's March 25th. So if your birthday's March 25th, what's important around these here parts? Wishing you a happy birthday, all right? So, happy birthday. But if this finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may happen to be, I hope you had a happy birthday in those circumstances. That said, a lot of times there's folks that like to join us randomly or drop in more specifically to celebrate. So if that's the case, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. Yesterday we rolled some doubles. Let's see if we can do the same today here. That said, this is the Diecast birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake. But if you've been here before and you know the score, and you don't want to sit through the story I might cook up, well, just advance ahead in the chapters or dive into the redirect. I'll be here rolling dice because I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And here, folks, no doubles today. I rolled a 6 and a 2, 4 and 8. That's right. Now, what is synchronicity? You're probably wondering. Well, my friends, as I hear it told, the universe or the higher powers that be will put things in our path to help us realize our goals and manifest our aspirations. But a lot of times, as we're getting on in life, we got the blinders on to kind of what's going on around us. So we may not notice the things that come across our path, or at least the significance of as much if we do see them. So this is a little bit of an exercise to help us take those blinders off and hopefully identify the things the universe is putting in our path. That said, how do we exercise this? Well, we need some kind of sign that's mutually agreed upon between us and the universe. That's right. Your daily numbers there. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there, but it's probably advisable you take your own set of dice. You can ascribe directional values to number sets and time limits with which to go in those directions. But once that's established, pick a spot near and dear to your heart or some place you'd like to explore and set out. But like I said, drop the blinders, all right? Start taking everything around you like a sponge, or taking it in, rather, like a sponge. Because you never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme, all right? Outside of your daily numbers creeping up, maybe something just starts to come up more often. Take the inkwell as an example, all right? Maybe you see people using old-timey pens, spilling ink if you like, or just the visual representational image of as much. Maybe it's on advertisements that you keep passing, or on bus benches, murals on the sides of buildings. Who's to say? But you know what? It doesn't necessarily have to be an inkwell. It could be just about anything. That's why you got to be on the lookout and taking things in an active way. That said, maybe get on with this first leg of your journey, and hey, you're not seeing much of anything, just the everyday goings on. Well, like I often like to say, just take it in stride, take a step back, look around, see what you see, and you might notice something small, like you're on what's this? 26th Avenue or 8th Street, I would take that as a sign you're on the right path. Or maybe you're just in front of a big number 8, big number 26, 62, whatever the case may be. Just kind of take it as a sign you're on the right path and that the universe is driving you where it wants you to go, all right? Roll the dice again for your new directional value time limit. Set out. Maybe at this point, by the end of your time limit, you find yourself in front of a building with, what's this? That's right, your daily numbers in the address. Hey, you know what? Go on in there if it seems appropriate, all right? Sometimes you got to use a little bit of, good intention there, common sense if you like. But sometimes you can use the dice as a binary decision maker. Yes or no, even odd kind of thing. Should I go in this building? Hey, maybe it comes up odd and that was what you said was yes. Go on in there. Maybe you find it's a stationery shop and hey, what's this? They've got old-timey ink wells on special. Hey, you know what? That would line up with the theme, all right? I think you see where I'm going with this. It could be just about anything, like I said. But maybe you're not in the market for, new ink or whatever. That said, you just notice as much. You're like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. The individual behind the desk asks you if they can help you. Hey, you know what? No, I'm just here on account of synchronicity. You may just happen to say, all right, at least in this example. And you know what they'll say? I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe show them your dice, show them this video to answer their question. They're apt to say, that's rather crazy. You're probably apt to agree. And they'll say, yeah, but what's even crazier, and you're listening in intently, right? And they say, it's my birthday too. Oh, how about that? I know you're apt to think that's a little harebrained, but you know what? Sometimes truth is stranger than reality, okay? Or whatever the saying is. Truth is stranger than fiction, right? That said, hey, maybe nobody else is in the market for ink wells or ink, budget ink there if you like, so maybe they close up shop and they join you, all right? Hey, it's their birthday too. I'm sure they want to have their hair blown back and see some kind of universal synchronicities or coincidences start stacking up in their life, if you like. Which is great because, as I hear it told also, the more people who are focused on the same things are apt to beget greater results. So maybe you just made a new friend. You guys get out there, yeah, and you know what? Maybe you just start noticing your numbers more often, noticing the theme of the day. Again, stack them up if you can, all right? And if you see, taste, touch, smell, intuit, even just a little bit of that kind of magic, you'll see why I recommend it. Sometimes it can blow your hair back. In any event, I think you get the idea with synchronicity. Let's get on with the birthday reading, all right? Your month is March, if you didn't know. Your day, the 25th. Your sign is 3 to 5 degrees Aries of the Aries I period specifically, the first day of as much. And your quality and element is Cardinal fire. All right, March 25th, the day of dynamism. People born on March 25 are unstoppable and dynamic. All right, they are among the most active, energetic people of the year. Many seem cut out to be leaders, but perhaps could be better described as pure loners and soloists. And when they head up a group effort, it is usually due to the force of their talents or the demands of circumstance rather than their own desire to lead. Those born on this day are not driven by blind ambition. They know their capabilities and are very aware of what they can and cannot do. They also have a great need to seek peace when they are away from the hectic professional life in which they are often cast. And without this, they cannot function. Their private life is sacred to them. Marriage is difficult for these individualists, perhaps because they can only serve on their own terms. Their partner not only has to be a real pal, but also has to be someone who can balance their own energetic personality. March 25 people often do not find their true partner until later in life, if at all. Ultimately, they may make the choice to live alone rather than settle for anything less than the perfect mate. A March 25 woman is extremely capable of looking after herself, while a March 25 man desires the warmth and affection of a family situation, or to say, a secure nest. At times it seems that the energy of March 25 people is limitless, but in fact they can get run down and become irritable. In this state, they often take offense very easily and consider even the slightest sign of being ignored as a personal affront to them. And March 25 people can throw tantrums or, even worse, be devastating in their cutting criticism. They are faithful to those they love, but in their own strange way can believe they are faithful, even when they're not entirely committed or even monogamous. They are loyal to their families, but are often fated to have unconventional family lives. In March 25 people may display a measure of tact, but are rather frank and also possessed of a quick temper that can land them in trouble. Fortunately, they are easily forgiven, probably because their human qualities, and therefore their faults, it says in parentheticals, are so obvious and others know their heart is in the right place. Key friends are essential to March 25 people, and forming a kind of inner circle around them. And those close friends will be a protecting buffer, but not only against the world's criticism, but also against self-destructive impulses. What do the friends get out of it? Question mark. Oh, usually the satisfaction of knowing such a forceful person who can always be called upon, if available, it says in parentheticals, to give advice, time, or even money. Those in relationships with March 25 people must quickly learn to leave them completely alone in their assault on the world, to travel, to experience, even to love in their most independent manner. And only when allowed freedom will they themselves give their love freely, both emotionally and physically. Well, all right, I will say this was quite the dynamic day. Definitely lived up to the title. All right, what else I have to say? It was pretty well rounded insofar as they dove into relationships. All right, they haven't really been doing this since back around the beginning of Capricorn. The birthday breakdowns have been much more hyper focused on the theme or the subject matter that comes out, and then they flesh out from there. Here they really did a number on drilling down on a personality there within social dynamics. So again, that's something they've been doing as of late. That said, I'd like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we just read, maybe make connections with days previous, which would be the Pisces Aries cusp and the book writ large, kind of see where things fall in. So let's dive into it, shall we? March 25th, the day of dynamism. You're said to be unstoppable, dynamic, and among the most active, energetic people in the year. The reading claims you aren't driven by blind ambition and you know the limits of your capabilities. And while you may seem cut out for leadership, you're more than apt to find yourself in such roles due to circumstance versus desire. A dynamic I personally consider very valuable. Insofar as the people who are specifically seeking leadership, I tend to see doing so for rather selfish reasons, or self-serving, if you like, rather than selfless reasons. At least when coupled to those, or when compared to those who are thrust into such leadership roles. And that's what it sounds like the reading was trying to convey for you. All right, those people who tend to get thrust into such positions, I would say, they tend to give their all, and they're rather selfless about it. Because they don't necessarily want to be there, but they want to do a good job. The selfish people, they tend to be serving their own ends, all right? That said, pretty interesting paradigm. Doesn't pop up all that often in the book writ large. But having said that, it's an interesting paradigm also that your personal life, you seek peace and seclusion, even though you're given it all at the office. And arguments for the merits of involuntary leadership aside, the reading provides a focused examination into partnership relations, like I said, which hasn't been done in some time. But provides quite the fascinating snapshot of not just the struggle it may be to match or find balance with your purported energy, but the struggle that you may face to find a companion, all right, if it's even something you seek out in the first place. Such dynamics come to even sharper relief as the subject of your irritability is examined, all right? With the likes of taking offense easily or at the slightest sign of being ignored or perceived as, you perceive that as a personal affront, perhaps, all right? And those are earmark examples of sensitivities that may be heightened in such cases. It's just pretty interesting. I would say I know a few people like that, all right? Even if they're not born on this day. But this penchant to throw tantrums and cutting criticisms at others, or see yourself as faithful individuals, even if not entirely committed, they said, is quite the unexpected inclusion. I would say this was about a bit of a rug pull. Sometimes these birthday readings, you think you have an idea of what's going on, and at the very end they pull the rug out and they throw something unexpected in there. And I like coming across that stuff, and I would say that was probably it for today, all right? But perhaps all that's pretty understandable too if your energy is as unstoppable and dynamic as the reading claims. All right. All told, close circle of friends is recommended to keep you safe against not just the world but yourself. And it behooves of them to also give you your independence if they want to stay in your good graces. So quite the tricky balance it sounds like it might be for them. But I would say make sure you're worth it, all right? Make sure you're giving them all their money's worth, all right, of their time and energy. But what's also interesting is a lot of the times the breakdowns don't speak to the people that know you. It's usually just focused on speaking to the person who the day belongs to, if you like. So I like when they include that kind of stuff too. That said, that's been the birthday breakdown. So let's move on to your numbers and your planets. That's right. Let's get into a little bit of astrology and numerology, if you like. All right. Those born on the 25th of the month are ruled by the number 7, as 2 plus 5 equals 7, and by the planet Neptune. And since independence is a characteristic of dates ruled by this number, the independence of March 25 people can sometimes take extreme forms. Indeed, it says. All dynamic activities are enhanced by the influence of Mars, which is Aries' ruler. Those ruled by the number 7 love to travel, both for its own sake and in order to learn about other cultures. Because of Neptune's influence, those born on March 25 should be wary of unreality states, strange dreams, or visions. All right, this was a highly personalized numbers and planets entry today. A lot of times there's like a boilerplate format and they kind of plug in the information where it's supposed to go. Here I think they deviated from that a little bit, personalized it for you. All right, I make mention of that because I just think it's interesting to show that they put in the time for you there. That said, what did I have to say about your numbers and your planets? There's an interesting dynamic going on today once again, so let's get into it. Number 7 in the planet Neptune, or the watery planet of dreams, visions, and illusions, for a concern for higher ideals as well as romanticism. It's also the ruler of the zodiac sign Pisces, and with a co-rulership of Mars for the Aries period here. I make mention of this because today is the first day of Aries I, all right? So where the Pisces-Aries cusp transitions out of a Neptune-Mars relationship. But here we go, right back into a Neptune-Mars relationship. It's pretty interesting as it falls as the ruler of your day, all right? So a little bit of irony here, which is the dynamic that I found pretty interesting. It's kind of like just when you thought that you might have escaped something, here you go. It comes right back into the fore. Here it's kind of like, what do you call it? A job you didn't want, but you thrust into, right? That said, perhaps it's a little bit kind of like I just said that, getting sucked into that leadership position. I'd say this admixture of a concern for what appears to be an individualism as well as a higher cause. If you are dedicated to getting out there and being a good leader, even if you didn't want to be, I would say that speaks to Neptune writ large. At the beginning of Pisces, a lot of these folks were concerned for a higher cause, serving others. Then as it kind of progressed on, that higher cause shifted to the individual, all right? They were more concerned about improving themselves. I would say it's an admixture here for you, all right? So it totally speaks to maybe it being like a Pisces Aries cusp, even though it's Aries 1, all right? So what else do we have here? It speaks to the side of this higher dynamic through the process there. Like I said, Mars also with its god of warlike, aggressive energy, I would say that shows through as well. All right, you've got this volatile aspect to you. Nature, it sounds like, said to manifest in very specific certain conditions. But that said, there is a certain kind of dynamic that exists between Mars and Neptune, at least as has been conveyed in the book. And that would be psychic or intuitive energies, all right? And they warned against those strange dreams and visions. Hey, it might just be that dynamic, but it sounds like for you, it might have a little bit more power to it, all right? So maybe be mindful of such things and give them their due consideration, all right? React more objectively rather than emotionally, if you can, I would say. But who's to say? But if you do have strange dreams and such, maybe that explains it for you. That said, hopefully we imparted a little bit more, or I rather, imparted a little bit more value or context to such things, or at least something to think about with respect to all that. Before we move into your tarot, that's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies, But hey, it's here in the book. Oftentimes it speaks to the breakdown. This isn't something that's chosen randomly. It's a number that pops up. It's in a sequence. So it's interesting if we can see if it fits in or ties in with the birthday reading. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does. Let's just see what you drew today. Here we go. The seventh card of the major arcana is the Chariot, which shows a triumphant figure moving through the world, manifesting his physical presence in, you guessed it, perhaps, a dynamic way. All right. The card may be interpreted to mean that no matter how narrow or precarious the correct path, one must continue on. The good side of this card posits success, talent, and efficiency. But the bad side suggests a dictatorial attitude and a poor sense of direction. Not surprisingly, March 25 people have to watch out for car accidents, particularly when behind the wheel. Interesting. All right, that's probably one of the most specific buttons that I've seen in a tarot reading. Otherwise, the whole thing was just a copy-paste job, all right? But they imparted something very unique for you today, interestingly enough. So mind those car accidents, all right? Maybe a little bit too preconceived with some daydreamy type visions, or maybe getting a little too aggressive too. Who's to say? We gotta watch that temper. I don't know. Any event, let's dive in with the tarot. Stop jaw-jacking about it. See if we can add a little bit more context or value for you here. The Chariot, manifesting the physical presence in the dynamic way, right from the get. I would say this speaks to the breakdown, all right? With a suggestion to continue on your path no matter the difficulties, all right? Even more fuel for the argument that it's an apt card. If you do, in fact, take on your chosen or otherwise unchosen station, and you give it all your energy, all right? With positives of talent and efficiency, but negatives of a dictatorial attitude and poor sense of direction, the card seems to serve as a keystone example of the larger picture, I would say. Instead of just this nicely fitting puzzle piece into the grander scheme of the picture, I would say that the card almost seems to inform the breakdown, all right? Somebody who's the most energetic person in the day, ostensibly, gets, boom, getting out there in front of the pack that blazing their respective trail, even if it's one they didn't choose. Pretty interesting, all right? Sometimes, like I said, these don't line up at all, or they serve it as an example for the person to live up to. Pardon the cough, I might do that a little bit more here. So in any event, that's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. Here we go. March 25 people are so much on the go that they may literally have no time to look after their health. They too often assume that health is something with which they are automatically blessed, and they can walk around for years with various ailments, more or less ignoring them. It is important, therefore, that for them to schedule a yearly checkup with their physician. Vigorous physical exercise is also a good way of keeping fit and shedding excess pounds. And it says here in parentheticals, March 25 people usually enjoy both eating and drinking a lot. All right, both for quality and quantity, and thus tend to put on weight, all right? Through a course of zestful appetite, that is generally healthy, and they should seek to avoid excess salt, meat, dairy products, or alcohol, if possible. All right, pretty interesting here with the health today. Highly unique. Once again, they spend a lot of time here, let me tell you. So what I have to say here, you're said to be busy, at least too busy to look after your own health. Pretty unique. That doesn't pop up all too often. A lot of times it's just people who ignore it, or people who are hypersensitive and they always have health issues, even if they're looking after it, etc. List goes on. This one's pretty unique here. But you lead with the assumption that it's something you're just blessed with. I think that's the first time I've ever read that, all right? So that's pretty interesting too. For some reason, I find that kind of hubris endearing, I wrote here. And then here you go. That kind of lines up with the breakdown to say, for some reason, you're forgiven such things because of that human kind of quality to it. So that said, get checked out for things that you may not know you're carrying, all right? So to speak, all right? Things that are affecting you and you don't know it. Maybe there's some kind of chronic pain you just kind of learned to live with, but hey, if it had been alleviated, you would be like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm on a new level here because I got rid of this thing I didn't even realize You get it, all right? Especially if you've ever been in that situation. So shoehorn it in, all right? You only got to do it once a year, right? They recommended vigorous exercise for you, and that's typical for a Mars dynamic kind of rulership, all right? It's ostensibly to exercise that god of war like energy and aggression. However, that being said, when Neptune comes into the mix, oftentimes that vigorous exercise goes down a little bit, so it turns into a light to moderate, also depending on what other influences are in there. At least that seems to be the common denominator. So here, that's a little bit of a shakeup here for you, considering Neptune's in the mix and you still got vigorous, all right? Maybe you just have that much energy, all right? More fuel for that particular kind of theory. That said, the weight gain aspect here, that doesn't come up very often, so maybe take note of as much, all right? And there may be some historical precedence for it, who's to say? We might notice as much as we get on with those who were born on this day. We'll just have to be on the lookout for it. And if I don't remember, at least maybe you will. That said, once again, not often mentioned with the weight gain. That said, they didn't really recommend foods to consume for you, but they gave you a whole laundry list of foods to maybe cut out of your diet, all right? So that's a novel inclusion. It's normally the things that they recommend. So maybe take note of as much. They said the salt, meat, dairy products, and alcohol. All right. So I would say if this is a Neptune day, they often get recommended grounding type foods to say vegetables, roots, bulk foods like fiber, that kind of thing. So maybe work that into the diet. Who's to say? Interestingly enough, typically on Mars days, they can handle meat and sugar. Who's to say? But it might just be too much for you. I don't know. That having been said, that's been your health. Let's move on to some advice. Here we go. You are indeed a handful, all right? But at times you need to get a handle on yourself. Self-control and discipline are important. Learn to modulate temper and soften, and to appreciate the value of stillness and silence, all right? Don't overwhelm everybody. Is the outer world that important? Very interesting in the advice here. Don't think I've seen such things before, all right? Probably because not everybody's so energetic. Who's to say? That's it. What did I have to say about what they had to say? Here we go. You are a handful that they made mention of, all right? It's like I said, seldom if ever mentioned, all right? I don't think it has been. Somewhat comically to that end, I would say. So self-control and discipline that they mentioned here. Earmarks for the cultivation of objectivity and self-awareness, all right? Take the emotion out of it, recognize how you operate, all right? Fundamentally, all right? And then you can build from there. It's a key first step to recognizing when you're maybe operating out of pocket, all right? Because you might not realize it. You might not realize it. There's just too much energy and emotion baked into it. You got to take that huge first step to step outside the emotion. Kind of hard for pretty much all of us. We're all human, right? Also a huge through-line theme for the book writ large, okay? Cultivating self-awareness, being aware of yourself, how you operate, how things influence you. So you can get ahead of such things or know like, oh, I'm about to explode if this person talks much longer, that kind of thing. So then you can kind of temper what's coming up, right? Moderation and balance are also through-line themes for the book, so let's see if they come up, all right? Modulate, temper, and soften, and appreciate the value of silence and stillness, all right? So find your balance, I would say. There it is, the through-line theme of the day. I would say both in your professional life and your personal. There doesn't have to be what sounded like a schism in the breakdown between your attitudes at work and at home, all right? So maybe bring some of that reserve to work and maybe some of that dedicated professionalism to your life at home. Who's to say? At least try it out or think about as much, all right? And you could also save all that high energy for the vigorous exercise. That's right. Exercise it out of there and bulk up, build up all the muscles, and shed the weight if you got it. Who's to say? All right? So, yeah, use your energy for that. There's also, this also probably translates to the outside world in no small part. You improve yourself in one area, you can improve yourself in the other. And that translates to just, the commute to work, say, all right? Maybe you're going to be better behind the wheel, all right? There you go. Novel mention, novel inclusion. What else do they say here? Maybe the outer world isn't that important. All right. I'm not quite sure where they got this. Maybe it's just don't take things so seriously, thinking about your image or trying to build yourself up for maybe strangers. I don't know, but that's kind of what it sounds like there. So maybe learn to let go of outer concerns just a little bit more. I don't know. It's kind of what it sounded like to me, but it sounded like a little bit of a disconnect. I wasn't quite seeing where that lined up with the breakdown of things previously mentioned. So maybe I didn't look between the lines enough, who's to say. But in any event, that's been your advice. Let's move on to your meditation. That's right. It's your birthday. You get something to think about. Here we go. All right. Males wear the makeup in the animal kingdom. I'm not quite sure about that one. All right, once more, males wear the makeup in the animal kingdom. All right, hey, a lot of times I have an interpretation on why they chose the meditation for the day. Here, I'm at a loss. But that's it. If I did have an interpretation, I wouldn't be sharing it with you, all right? It would kind of defeat the purpose of it being a meditation there. So it's your birthday, your meditation. Males wear the makeup in the animal kingdom. There you go. That said, that's been your meditation. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror there and see where you got the girth and where otherwise maybe a little more atrophy there within the metaphor. Your strengths, you're energetic. We knew that one. Loyal. We heard that one too. And independent. That's right. Like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Ranger. Independence. All right. But your weaknesses. Oh, let's hold that objective mirror back up and flip it to the side that blows up your face. Maybe it shows off the things you otherwise a little more superficially, what's that? Insecure about within the metaphor. Like those chicken pox pockmarks you got because you picked your scabs as a child and you wouldn't listen to your parents telling you it would carry forward to your adulthood there. You were too independent to listen there, be objective about it, and you had to get rid of the it. You get it. Your weaknesses. Here we go. You're highly critical. Ooh. You're blunt and self-destructive. That's right. Picking those scabs there. All right. Oftentimes I like to make a case that our strengths are going to help us overcome our weaknesses, all right? I also like to say sometimes our weaknesses can be a strength. It just depends on the situation and how we use them, all right? So let's try to make my case here today. You're energetic. How's that going to help you overcome your weaknesses? Well, hey, you got the energy, the wherewithal, if you like, to keep attacking, keep trying to work it, all right? Sometimes people, they fall out because they have no energy left, all right? It's too big of a task, if you like. Nope, you got the energy to strive through, all right? Be the chariot. Follow your path regardless the danger, if you like. You're loyal, all right? Hey, that might be to other people, but as well as yourself, okay? If you're loyal to your endeavors, you're going to see them through, okay? Your independence, hey, you don't necessarily need help in figuring these things out, all right? We're approaching figuring out your weaknesses. That said, a lot of these other days, I would say the whole Pisces Aries cusp, they had that affection, just other different strengths that would help them bring people in to help them with their weaknesses, at least in my arguments. So it's interesting here. You're independent. You don't necessarily need the help. But that said, I wouldn't poo-poo the notion either, all right? Take it where you can get it. It sounds like people want to help you out just so that they can know you and be within your gravitational field from the sounds of it. That said, your weaknesses, how can they be strengths? These ones are a little bit weaker arguments, but let's see if I can reach into my tool bag, figure it out here for you. Highly critical. Oh, you see why that's a weakness? You're just criticizing people with those cutting remarks a little too much, bringing them down to size, maybe even if they don't need to be cut down, all right? Hey, how can that be a strength? You bring that to the fore when it's needed, all right? Hey, there's this project that needs to be tip-top perfection, highly critical. You find in all the areas where it needs to be honed in, tempered, whatever the case. A lot of people don't have an eye for that, or they don't want to be brought to the task and do the job, and so you got to keep them on task, all right? So I can see it as a strength. However, in moderation, all right? You got to know when not to be, or else you're going to lose your employees or those people who want to be in your gravitational field. You're blunt, all right? Again, that can be a bad look sometimes, all right? But that said, I would say there's a lot of people who don't have the strength to be blunt. Tell it like it is. Just throw it out there right straight to the point, all right? They don't know how to not tiptoe on eggshells about it. Get to the point, all right? So I can see it being a strength in that respect as well. Again, moderation with as much. But just self-destructive. Now, how can that possibly be a strength? I had to think on it. I had to write it down in here because I was like, I'm going to be stuck if I have to try to do it in the moment. I put here, it's an opportunity to reinvent, all right? You burn down and you raise the things that are holding you back, all right? You reinvent yourself through self-destruction, all right? It sounds a little counterintuitive, but it might just make all the sense in the world. It's also, you're getting rid of the things that don't necessarily serve you anymore, okay? There's a theme of rebirth for the Pisces Aries cusp. And you know what? It sounds to me like, even though it's Aries I, you're well within, at least you're kind of cheating into that particular, zodiac period, because you're ruled by Neptune as well as Mars. Outside of that, what was the other day? The planet that ruled, no, it was just the Pisces cusp, Neptune and Mars. So you got those direct influences, all right? It's just within the cusp, they had an extra planet in there influence them. So they had all these different dynamics baked into it. You're getting the pure, untapped powers, I would say. Any of it, I think you get the idea. Strengths and weaknesses having been relayed. Let's move on to those born on this day. When we get into those born on this day, something I like to do outside of see who shares your company is examine it from the perspective of chasing after, figuring out our passions. All too often I get out in the world and ask folks what they do, more importantly if they like it, and they don't, all right? And I think it's just that they got out of school and right into a job, maybe just to make ends meet. And at the very root of it, maybe the fatal flaw was it had nothing to do with anything they were interested in. They just had to get that money going so they could pay the mortgage and get the food on the table, etc. All right? So, but you're working at the job. Maybe you're advancing up the corporate ladder. You're filling the coffers a little bit more. It's getting easier because other people are, doing the harder work for you. You're delegating, etc. But at the end of the day, hey, you know what? It might be easy, but what are you really doing? Where's the fulfilling aspect of life there for you? I think for a lot of people, it's not there. So if there's anything I can wish for somebody on their birthday, it's that they're trying to carve out a passion for themselves or taking the time and putting in the energy to figuring it out. So I'm hoping this can serve as an opportunity to try to drum up some inspiration by seeing who shares your company and what they did to get in the book. Let's get into it here. We have Bela Bartok, an Hungarian composer, pianist, and a piano pedagogue. Also says ethnomusicologist in the 20th century, music pioneer. We also have Arturo Toscanini, an Italian-American conductor, classical music legend. It says Metropolitan Opera and New York Philharmonic. Also the NBC Symphony Orchestra, rather. Maybe there was some sympathy put in there, though, too, in the bargain. That said, how many more composers are we going to come up with here today? Day of the composer, geez. We have Flannery O'Connor, a woman novelist. They've been getting into designating the sexes of people quite a bit here recently. That said, responsible for the book Wise Blood. We also have Elton John, British singer-songwriter, composer there, arguably. We also have Aretha Franklin, a gospel and soul singer. We also have Howard Cosell, a sportscaster. David Lean, a British film director and responsible for The Bridge Over River Kwai. And Lawrence of Arabia, and was a film editor in the bargain. We also have Gloria Steinem, female activist and a writer. Simone Signoret, a French film actress. Gutzon Borglum was a Mount Rushmore sculptor. That's an interesting story if you ever dive into reading about Mount Rushmore and the sculptor therein. And if you ever visit, you're going to learn all about it. I highly recommend it. Also, Raymond Firth, a social anthropologist. Debbie Thomas, a two-time world champion, figure skater, and Olympic silver medalist. And you know what? It lines right up once again with the Pisces Aries cusp. A lot of figure skaters in that period, as it turns out. We also have Tom Monahan, or Monahan perhaps, depending on how you pronounce it, a corporate executive of Domino's Pizza and the Detroit Tigers baseball owner. though that may have changed considering this book's a little older. Also, we have James Lovell, U.S. astronaut. And who else we have? Big Sid Catlett, jazz drummer. We also have Laszlo Papp, 2Ps Papp, Hungarian 3-time Olympic gold medal winning boxer. We also have Paul Michael Glasser, or Glazer, there's only one S in there, a TV actor of Starsky and Hutch fame. We also have Jean-Louis Comvillar, a film actor and a director. Steve Norman, a British percussionist and a saxophonist, and responsible or part of Spandau Ballet. And Ed Begley, a stage, TV, and a film actor. I dare say a lot of TV and music today, all right? And a little bit of sports in there in the bargain. I was waiting for a hurdler. Yesterday there were 2 of them. First time it ever came up. I was waiting to see if there'd be another one. That said, hey, I know it's a big-ass tall order to take inspiration from other people born on the day. But hey, you know what? If I can just put the bug in your ear about chasing after a passion, hey, you know what? That's what I can wish for you on your birthday, all right? We should be finding something fulfilling to do in life, I would argue, all right? For your own welfare there. That said, I butchered a whole host of names there. Let's make up for it on my side of things. It's not done in malice, rather. It's just hooked on phonics. Isn't the best tool for pronouncing foreign names there, or reading in general, all right? At least for me, all right? That said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading, all right? Except to say your season is spring. Your sign, once again, is Aries, of the Aries I period specifically, even though it might as well be Pisces, Aries cusp. And your quality and element is Cardinal fire. All right, what does all that mean? Well, I got other videos that explain all that if you're interested in jumping into the channel, the playlist, and taking a look-see there, or the things at the end of the video there. I'll leave them up there for you. But that said, this has been March 25th, the day of dynamism, all right? And I would agree. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you, Stelfers. I have a link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy, diving in further, getting through it quicker than I can for you with all the commentary. But that said, this thing makes an excellent coffee table book. You know, let me tell you something. It's going to get the party started if you need something to break the ice. I don't imagine you need help in that respect if you do cater to some parties. But hey, you know what? Maybe one of these days you want to take a break. This is going to help do the lion's share of the lifting if one of those days comes to pass. All right. That said, book having been relayed, I got a personal message for you birthday boys and girls, ladies and gents, below the affiliate link. So check that out if you're interested. But that said, what's important around here, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. So once again, happy birthday, all right? And for everybody else who joined us randomly or more ideally to celebrate, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, learned something, even if it wasn't your birthday. Maybe something spoke to you true to heart. Examine this, examine that. I don't know who's to say. You never know what's going to spur us to action. So I hope I could provide that value for you there. That said, I want to thank everybody for the pleasure of their time, and for your birthday boys and girls, ladies and gents. It was a privilege to celebrate your birthday with you, all right? So once again, happy birthday, all right? Careful out there driving. And what else? Make sure you temper your, high energy there, dynamism, and cultivate a little stillness and silence. You never know what you can learn, all right? So have fun with yourselves. Enjoy your birthday there. And like I said, before I take us out, get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. You're 6 and you're 2 for an 8, or whatever you deem to roll for yourself, all right? Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. Blow your hair back with some synchronicities, hopefully, and you see why I brought it up, all right? So once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.